My brother told my parents, "She's a woman, give the family business to me." They listened and cut me out. I was heartbroken until the lawyer said, "Actually, that's not what the will says." When my brother heard it, his smug face disappeared. I still remember the moment my father told me I was out. The words felt like a knife straight to my chest. "This is a family business, kid. Your brother will take over. You'll be fine, you'll find something else." Something else? I spent my entire life working for that business. I knew every inch of it. I knew every deal, every supplier, every employee by name. I wasn't just my father's daughter, I was his best damn employee. But apparently, that didn't matter. Because I wasn't the son. My brother, Nathan, sat across from me, arms crossed, a smug grin on his face. I could still hear his voice, the way he spoke as if it were obvious. "She's a woman, Dad. This business needs a real leader. Someone who can handle the pressure." Like I hadn't been handling it already. Like I hadn't been running the place myself while Dad took longer and longer vacations. Like I hadn't sacrificed my social life, my relationships, my sleep, because I believed in the company. And yet, when it was time to pass the torch, I was nothing to them. Nathan got the company. I got a pat on the back and a forced smile from my mother, telling me, "You'll always be part of the family." I should have fought back harder. I should have screamed. But I was too shocked. Too hurt. Instead, I walked out. And that should have been the end of it. I should have moved on, found a new job, started my own business. But life had other plans. Because when the lawyer read the will, Nathan's smirk disappeared so fast I thought he might pass out. The beginning of the betrayal let me back up a bit. Our family owned a mid-sized logistics company in Chicago. It wasn't a billion-dollar empire, but it was successful, really successful. Dad built it from the ground up, and for as long as I could remember, I was part of it. While other kids were playing outside, I was sitting in on operations meetings. By high school, I was helping with accounts. In college, I was already managing supplier negotiations. Nathan? Nathan partied his way through college, barely scraped by, and only showed up to work when Dad forced him to. He didn't care about the company. He barely knew how it worked. But the moment Dad got sick, Nathan started showing up every single day. Not to work, though, no, he was playing the long game. Schmoozing. Convincing Mom and Dad that he was the man for the job. I wasn't worried at first. Dad always said he valued results over everything. And I had results. Nathan had nothing. But I underestimated how deep the old-school mentality ran in my family. The meeting that changed everything, the day they told me, I thought we were having a normal family dinner. We sat at the long dining table, my parents on one side, me and Nathan on the other. Dad cleared his throat and said, "We've made a decision." I wasn't even worried. I was so stupidly confident that when he said, "Nathan is going to be the new CEO, I laughed. I thought it was a joke. But when I saw Nathan's smirk, I felt like the floor disappeared beneath me. "This is what's best for the company," Dad said. "Dad, are you serious?" I asked, my voice shaking. "I've been running this business." Nathan doesn't even, enough. He cut me off. "It's done." Just like that. I looked at my mom, hoping, praying, that she'd say something. But she just reached out and squeezed my hand. "You'll always be part of the family," she said softly. "Not part of the business. Just the family." I don't even remember how I got home that night. All I remember is staring at my ceiling, feeling like my whole life had been ripped away from me. And Nathan? Nathan wasted no time making it clear that he won. Nathan's reign of disaster. The moment Nathan took over, things went downhill fast. For years, I had built strong relationships with our clients and vendors. Nathan, on the other hand, thought he was some kind of business genius, except he had no idea what he was doing. He fired key employees. He made terrible deals. He pissed off our biggest clients by trying to raise rates without reason. Within 6 months, things were bad. Within a year, the company was hemorrhaging money. And I wasn't there to stop it. I tried to warn them. I called my father, told him exactly what was happening. "He just needs time to adjust," Dad said. I tried to talk to my mom. "Just be patient. This is his chance." His chance? I had one chance, and they took it from me. But then? Karma came knocking. The will that changed everything. A year after my father forced me out, he passed away. It was sudden. A heart attack. One day he was there, the next he wasn't. It was a mess. Nathan was running the business into the ground. Mom was devastated. And me? I was just trying to pick up the pieces of my life. Then came the reading of the will. I went to the lawyer's office with zero expectations. What was left for me? A framed photo? A pat on the head? Nathan was already grinning like he won the lottery. But when the lawyer started reading, I noticed something strange. The wording didn't make sense. And then, I swear to God, Nathan's face went pale. Because the lawyer looked at him and said, "Actually, that's not what the will says." I leaned forward in my chair. "What?" Nathan asked, his voice tight. The lawyer cleared his throat. "Your father left controlling interest in the company to his eldest child." The room was silent. Nathan looked at me. I looked at him. And I saw it, the moment he realized, he wasn't the eldest child. I was. And just like that, Nathan's smug face disappeared. Nathan's smug face disappeared, and that's when the real war began. For a few seconds, no one spoke. The only sound in the lawyer's office was the ticking of the clock on the wall. Nathan sat frozen, his mouth slightly open, as if his brain had just stopped working. Mom looked confused. "What do you mean?" she asked. The lawyer adjusted his glasses and looked at me. "The will is very clear. Your father left majority ownership of the company to his eldest child. That means her, not Nathan." My heart was pounding. I couldn't believe what I just heard. Dad had chosen me? After everything? Nathan shot out of his chair so fast it nearly tipped over. That's impossible. My dad told me I was getting the company. He said it. The lawyer didn't even flinch. "I can only tell you what's in the legal document. Your father left you a portion of the business, but not enough to have control. The majority, 51%, belongs to your sister." Nathan's face turned red. "No. No way. My dad would never do that." Mom placed a hand on his arm, trying to calm him down, but he shook her off. His eyes were wild. Furious. I sat there, gripping the armrests of my chair so tight my fingers ached. I should have felt victorious. But I didn't. Because I knew what was coming. Nathan wouldn't just accept this. He would fight. And I was right. Nathan tries to steal what's mine. The next few weeks were hell. Nathan refused to acknowledge the will. He kept showing up to the office like he was still in charge, making decisions, bossing people around. He thought he could just ignore reality and keep running the company like nothing happened. But legally? I owned it. And I wasn't about to let him walk all over me again. So I did the only thing I could. I marched into that office on Monday morning and took my rightful place. The employees were shocked. Some looked relieved. Others looked nervous. Nathan stormed in 5 minutes later. "You don't belong here," he snapped, glaring at me. I crossed my arms. "I own the company, Nathan. You don't." He laughed. Actually laughed. "You think you can run this place? No one will listen to you. They all respect me." I looked around. A few of the managers shifted uncomfortably. They didn't respect him, they feared him. And then, I said something that made his smile vanish. "I've already talked to the board. We're voting on your removal today." His jaw dropped. "What? You heard me. You're a disaster, Nathan. You lost us millions. The board knows it. The employees know it. I know it." His face turned an ugly shade of purple. "You wouldn't dare." "Oh, I would," I said, meeting his glare with one of my own. And I just did. The vote happened that afternoon. Nathan lost. Badly. 7-1. The only person who voted to keep him was himself. He was officially out. I thought that was the end of it. I thought I'd finally won. But Nathan wasn't done ruining my life. The sabotage at first, things seemed to calm down. I stepped in as the rightful CEO and started fixing Nathan's mess. Clients who had left under his leadership slowly started coming back. Employees who had been afraid to speak up started working hard again. I finally felt like I was rebuilding what he had broken. Then, weird things started happening. Financial records went missing. Orders were accidentally cancelled. Emails were sent out in my name, emails I never wrote. It was small stuff at first. Just enough to be annoying. Then, it got worse. One day, a supplier called and screamed at me for canceling a major contract. I had never cancelled anything. I checked the system. The request came from my login. Except, I never made it. That's when I realized, Nathan was sabotaging me. Catching Nathan red-handed, I needed proof. So I set a trap. I called a fake meeting at a hotel. Sent an email to the senior managers that I would be out all day. Then, I waited. I stayed behind in my office, hidden in the supply closet with a security camera feed on my laptop. Sure enough, Nathan walked in. He had a keycard. I watched as he went straight to my desk, opened my computer, and started typing. He was trying to destroy me. Again. I recorded everything. I watched as he sent out fake emails under my name, deleted important client files, and even transferred money to a fake vendor account. It was fraud. And now, I had proof. The ultimate revenge. The next morning, I didn't say a word. I let Nathan think he got away with it. I let him smirk at me like he always did, like he still had some power over me. Then, at exact wrongful termination, defamation, unlawful manipulation, of our father's will, I almost laughed at the last one. Nathan, the same guy who spent years acting like the company was his birthright, was now claiming I had somehow schemed my way into the will? It was insane. And yet, he had money. He had lawyers. And worst of all, he had Mom. Mom's ultimate betrayal. I don't know why I thought she'd stay neutral in all of this. Maybe I still had some tiny hope that she'd finally see Nathan for what he was. I was wrong. I found out through one of the board members that Mom had posted Nathan's bail. She used her own savings to get him out of jail. When I confronted her, she just sighed. "He's my son," she said, as if that explained everything. "I'm your daughter," I shot back. "And he's trying to destroy me." She just shook her head. "You should have just let him run the company. This wouldn't be happening if you hadn't taken it from him." I felt like she had slapped me across the face. Taken it from him? It was never his. But in her eyes, would always be the one who didn't belong. I walked away that night, realizing something painful. I had lost both my father and my mother. And Nathan? He was still out there. Plotting. Nathan's final move, and the twist I didn't see coming. The lawsuit dragged on for months. Nathan was trying everything to make me look bad. He spread rumors that I had bribed the lawyer to change Dad's will. He claimed I had been embezzling money from the company. He even got old employees to testify that I was unfit to run the business. It was exhausting. But I had the truth on my side. And then, right before the final court hearing, I got a call from my lawyer. "There's something you need to see," he said, his voice urgent. He sent me a document, one that had been buried deep in our father's records. A second will. Dated 6 months before his death. And this one? It was completely different. The real will. And the truth about Dad's death. My stomach dropped as I read the document. Because this will? It didn't just leave the company to me. It cut Nathan out completely. No shares. No money. Nothing. This was before the final version, the one that gave Nathan a small stake. But why would Dad have changed it? And then, I noticed something strange. The signatures were different. I sent both wills to a forensic specialist. A week later, I got the results. Dad's final will, the one that gave Nathan a portion of the company, had been forged. Nathan faked the will. And Mom knew. I sat in my lawyer's office, gripping the report with shaking hands. Nathan had faked the second will. He knew Dad never wanted him to have the company. But instead of accepting it, he had manipulated Mom into helping him change it before Dad died. That's why Mom had stood by him through everything. She knew. She helped him. I felt sick. I confronted her that night. She didn't even deny it. "He deserved a chance," she said quietly. "Your father was being unfair." "Unfair?" I yelled. "He chose me, Mom. You helped Nathan commit fraud." She closed her eyes, looking tired. I did what I had to do. That was the last time I ever spoke to her. Nathan always thought he was untouchable. Even after getting arrested. Even after losing the company. Even after the fraud was exposed. He still believed he could weasel his way out. And for a while, it seemed like he might. Because my mother hired the best lawyers she could afford to try and get him a reduced sentence. But what she didn't realize. I wasn't done yet. I wanted Nathan to suffer. Just like he made me suffer. And I still had one last card to play. Nathan's dirty secrets, exposed to the world. I knew Nathan. He was arrogant. Careless. He thought he could get away with anything. So I started digging. I hired a private investigator to look into his past financial dealings. And within 2 weeks, we hit gold. Nathan had been stealing long before Dad died. He had taken hundreds of thousands from company accounts and funneled them into a secret offshore account. He had used company funds to pay off his gambling debts. He had even signed fraudulent contracts in the company's name, leaving us open to massive lawsuits. I took everything I found and sent it to, heavy checkmark the IRS, heavy checkmark the FBI, heavy checkmark the press, and just like that, Nathan wasn't just facing fraud charges. He was under federal investigation. The trial that destroyed him. The moment Nathan realized I had buried him, he tried to cut a plea deal. He begged for a reduced sentence. But the prosecutors had too much evidence. Nathan was found guilty on all counts. Heavy checkmark corporate fraud, heavy checkmark forgery, heavy checkmark embezzlement, heavy checkmark wire fraud. The judge didn't go easy on him. Not this time. Nathan was sentenced to 15 years in federal prison. 15 years. No early parole. No second chances. For the first time in his life, Nathan had to face the consequences of his actions. And I made sure everyone knew who exposed him. Mom begged me for mercy, but she deserved what she got after the verdict. My mother came to my office. She looked older. Tired. Like a woman who had finally realized she backed the wrong child. Tears filled her eyes as she said, "Please, he's your brother." I stared at her for a long moment. Then, I said, "No. He was your son. Not mine." She wiped her eyes. "You've already taken everything from him. Just, let it go." I laughed. Actually laughed. "Let it go?" I said. "Like how you let me go? Like how you helped Nathan forge Dad's will?" She flinched. "You deserve to lose him," I said, my voice cold. "You deserve to know what it feels like to watch your family betray you." She started to say something else, but I turned and walked away. I never spoke to her again. Final revenge, Nathan's life in ruins. Nathan went to prison, and I made sure he stayed there. Every few months, I'd get updates. Heavy checkmark, he tried to act tough and got beaten up within his first week. Heavy checkmark, no one respected him because they knew he was a rich fraud. Heavy checkmark, he had no money, no power, no influence, just a prison cell. Mom lost everything trying to pay for his legal battles. She had to sell her house. She moved into a small apartment and lived alone. And me? I thrived. Heavy checkmark, I rebuilt the company from the ground up. Heavy checkmark, I doubled our revenue within 3 years. Heavy checkmark, I became exactly the leader Dad knew I could be. I never looked back. And the best part? Nathan will be in his tiny prison cell for the next 15 years, thinking about how he could have had it all. If only he hadn't been so greedy. Final thought, karma always comes around. Nathan believed he was the rightful heir to the company. Mom believed I should have just stepped aside. But in the end, I won. Not because I stole anything. Not because I schemed or lied. I won because I earned it. And they? They destroyed themselves. That's what real revenge looks like. The end.